beautiful soul, welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time joining me, thank you so much for being here. My hope and my greatest desire is to share with you tools, information that will ultimately help you embody your greatness. That's ultimately what my job is, if you will. And I do this with help of beings from higher vibrations. Today we're going to talk about the idea of channeling. But before I get there, thank you so much for being here. If you like what you see, if you are wanting to understand more about yourself, perhaps your purpose here, what it means to be a spiritual being, then click the subscribe button and comment on the information you receive. It helps people to know that there is a worthwhile information to look into. The YouTube algorithm works in specific ways, and I have no idea how it works because it's like black magic to me, or magic to me, I should say. But anyway, click subscribe, like, comment, because it helps to grow the channel. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Without you, I wouldn't do this because there would be no one watching this. And I've said this many, many times. I absolutely love what I do. And I love it because it makes me be conscious of my own connection to what I will call home, which is the space beyond this physical world. And I do this as a job, quote unquote. But it's very difficult to call it a job because my job is essentially to do what we all do all the time. We are all channelers. You and I are channelers. We channel energy all the time. But the reason why I'm talking about me and this being a job is because it is my purpose as Joanna. It is, I believe, it's not that I believe, I know that I was put on this earth, or I chose to be on this earth, in order so that I would channel at a certain point in my life. And I would make this my big focus, because this focus is tied to humanity's understanding of itself. So my purpose on this earth, part of it is to channel information that will ultimately help humanity rise to their greatness. Okay? And I do this as a job. It is apparently in my contract that I would be doing this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because although we are all channelers, we all channel, it's not in everybody's soul contract to be a quote-unquote professional channeler. However, that does not mean that you cannot channel if you wanted to. Why am I saying this? Here. By the way, the 2024 zodiac signs are still on promo until Saturday. There's a link down below. A few days ago, I was watching a video about someone who was talking about his own channeling, and something about that video really struck me because this particular channeler, he called himself a channeler. Well, yes, this particular channeler was saying that although he's brand new to this, he seems to know a lot about it. But most importantly, he communicated that everyone who channels is manipulated by what he called aliens. And it struck me because, and he also said that these aliens are telling him to worship him and that they have no emotions, no feelings, and they're basically are there to use us. And it struck me as it being really odd because in my 20 years of doing channeling, that has never been my experience, ever, ever. In fact, if anybody would tell me who I channel to worship him or her, I would say, F off, I don't want to work with you. Because to be told that to worship someone is to essentially communicate that they are better than you. Here's the problem that I have with that. There is no one or anything better than you. We are all part of one. And this individual was saying that these beings are controlling him and they're giving him physical pain. And I'm going, there's something wrong about that. And this is where the idea came that maybe it's a good time to do a video on channeling, because there's going to be a lot more people who will attempt to channel, which is a wonderful thing because we channel all the time. We're just not aware of the fact that we are channeling. We're energetic beings. But there's going to be a lot more people who will attempt to channel, and they may end up channeling frequency they don't want to channel. And they may end up in a situation where they tap into some energy that does not have the person's best interest. There's many reasons for it, but one of the most important reasons is that when we begin to channel some other frequency and we put that frequency on a pedestal, we are presuming that we are less than. And that becomes, or it clouds the relationship between the channeler and the being channeled. Because what it does, it creates a relationship of codependence and do as I'm told, or do as you're told. A one of control. If a being is telling someone that they need to be worshipped, then you need to run, because it is not the type of being you want to connect with. Because the universe, God, higher consciousness, doesn't want you to worship anything. Why? Well, let's think about it this way. Why do we worship someone? Because we think we're better, right? But in the universe, there's no such thing as better. It all just is. So the universe would never, or higher frequency would never, ask you to worship him or her. Because that energy knows that you and that energy are no different. The only difference is that that energy right now has access to more information than you do, but it doesn't make that energy better or worse, or somehow you less than. But when we qualify ourselves as less than the energy that we are channeling, then we create this relationship that isn't very healthy, because it comes from an unbalanced space. Why am I saying this? Like I mentioned before, I feel there is going to be a lot more people channeling these days. And channeling is fairly easy. I mean, some of you may not believe that it is. Channeling is actually quite easy. What's difficult about the channeling is our head. It's our analytical thinking, where we have challenges or difficulties perceiving what we are channeling, or thinking that we are not channeling at all. We cannot not channel. We are channels ourselves. We channel energy all the time. But what we believe and what we think will affect our vibration, which will determine what vibration we are likely to channel. So if people believe that they are less than the energy that they are channeling, then they're going to put that other energy on a pedestal. Now, why do we put people on pedestal? Again, because we worship them. So in a roundabout way, you have a channeler who's connecting with a frequency, and the relationship is one of worship. There is no need for you to worship anything or anyone. Have respect, yes. Have curiosity for guidance. But worshiping an entity that you're channeling is not a great idea. In fact, if an entity asks you to worship them, then they're coming very likely for a much lower vibration, which is something you don't want if you want to experience vibrating higher. So when I got this idea to talk about this channeling and the dangers of channeling, it's not that, I was going to say, it's not that channeling is dangerous. Yes and no. I mean, we're channeling all the time. We're not in danger all the time. When I say danger, it's, we can get into situations where we are channeling or attracting energies we don't want to attract. And those energies will, I'll use the term, are like pesky. They're pesky. When you think of someone that's pesky, that's annoying, right? You don't want to be channeling an energy that is annoying. You want to be channeling an energy that's high frequency. And I'm not saying that other energies are bad. It's not about good or bad. It's about the frequency we choose to connect ourselves with. So going back to the idea of unity, we all come from the same space. In fact, we are all in that space right now. The only reason why we or you as a human being believes that you are not in that space of oneness is because of your own limiting belief, because you are a limited human being. But just because you are experiencing a limited human beingness does not mean that you are not part of the one. Which means if we are all part of the one, then that means we have access to all kinds of information. And information is all around us all the time. It's just a matter of us tapping into it. So when I talked earlier about dangers of channeling, what I'm saying simply is this. Sometimes it's not a good idea to channel another entity. Why? Well, for one, if you are afraid of channeling, for example, if you have fears around the idea of channeling, then naturally your frequency will be at a certain level. Okay? And when you are channeling with a certain frequency, you're likely to attract a very like frequency. So if we are vibrating in the fear, we're going to tend to attract an energy that's also vibrating in the fear. If we want to experience a much higher vibration, we need to bring our awareness or our own vibration up. So why am I saying this? Our culture tells us, well, some of our culture tells us that channeling is bad for various reasons. Some of our culture also tells us that channeling doesn't exist. There's no such thing. Some will say that channeling is not real. It's all made up. Or that it can be trusted. But again, we are channeling all the time. We're just not aware of the fact that we are channeling. We don't call it channeling. We call it breathing. Our mind and our other senses are perceiving information from the environment all the time. That information is coming through to us in order to be experienced. It's a form of channeling. Okay, but what we're talking about is channeling a specific entity. So when our own vibration is of a lower frequency or of a denser nature, because we are, let's say, scared, then we will likely attract other energies that will vibe with the frequency of being scared. So we will have a tendency to attract lower vibrating frequency. And what's the difference between a high vibrating frequency and a lower vibrating frequency? The lower we go down in frequency, the more we live in the illusion of separation and lack. So you don't want to connect with an entity that is vibrating on that same level. You want to connect with an entity or a being or consciousness, for that matter, collective, that is of a vibration where its perceived nature is that everything is love and everything is one. That's the type of frequency you want to connect with. how do we make sure that we connect with the highest frequency? For one, remember, our own frequency has to match, or at least it has to come close to this higher frequency. So let's start with our thoughts. If we have a lot of negative thoughts, or if our mind runs on a lot of negativity, we're going to have a more difficult time trying to perceive a very high vibration, because an anxious mind, a fearful mind, a negative mind vibrates at a lower vibration. So the first key to making sure that we channel only the highest frequency is we have to raise our own vibration. Okay. So this particular individual, speaking of which, said that he has a YouTube channel and he reads tarot, but the channel wasn't doing well, or it was slow, so he decided that he was going to do some channeling. So my first observation was, maybe that was the wrong intention. Because if this individual's intention was to get more attention, then he is getting that attention, maybe not in the way he would like to get this attention. In other words, he is getting attention from beings, but these beings are giving him the type of attention he doesn't want. He's being bothered by them. So one way to ensure that we connect with only the highest frequency is to be very mindful, very cognizant, very aware, very conscious of our intentions as to why we want to channel. If someone wants to channel for the purpose of ego only, then he or she will attract corresponding information. On the other, let me define that. If someone wants to channel for strictly selfish reasons, then that person will likely channel a, let's say, quote unquote, selfish energy. Okay, we don't want that. So one way to ensure that we create the best possible outcome in terms of channeling is to work with the mind and to work on our mind, primarily to reduce the level of anxiety that we have in general. Okay? We all are anxious beings. There's a lot of anxiety going on in the world. But the more anxious we are, the lower we vibrate. So attempting to channel from a space of anxiety is not going to serve us very well, because we're going to be attracting, again, light vibrations. So speaking about this individual, and by the way, I'm not judging the person at all, because this person was going through his experience, and that's very valuable. It's why I'm doing this video in the first place. So I'm not judging him. I'm simply saying that one of the first things I observed was this person's intention was probably not of the highest. Let's use that analogy. That is not to say that getting attention for channeling is a bad thing. I mean, I am channeling and you're paying attention. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I channel strictly for me to get attention from you, because that's somehow validating me, then I'm not channeling for the highest good. And that's going to limit what I channel and who I channel. Okay. So this person unknowingly limited himself to a vibration that was of a much lower quality, because his intention was one of needing to be noticed. Okay? And when we need to be noticed, it is almost always because we're coming from a space of lack. So if we come in our own vibration from a space of lack, and from that space we form a relationship with some other entity, we have to understand that that entity is only going to match what we are experiencing. So it's not a good idea to channel when we are always in a space of lack or anxiety. Like attracts like. You've heard this before, right? So going back to this story, this person has now been channeling for 6 months. To me, as an observer, it was obvious that this particular individual was probably a little bit insecure in himself, which there's nothing wrong with that. and that he was asking to channel for the quote-unquote wrong reasons, and reasons based on his lack, and that's by perception, of course. And so he got himself acquainted with these beings who are now telling him to worship him. Not a good idea. There's ways of avoiding that. So if you are someone who is wanting to channel or is beginning to channel, always be mindful of what your intention is for the purpose of channeling. In other words, what is my intention for channeling? I will share with you my intention, which is always the same. First and foremost, my intention is to bring awareness into this world. Okay? And that awareness has to match a certain quality. And that quality is all about empowerment. In other words, my intention is to channel information that is aligned with helping humanity rise to their true power. Okay? The other intention is, so that's my intention. The byproduct is, I love what I do. It makes me feel like home. Now, if my intention was, I want to channel so that I can get more views on my channel, I have a feeling that I would be channeling a very different frequency. And I'm not judging one as good or bad. I'm simply saying the intention frequency will correspond to the type of information that I channel. Okay, that's what I'm being asked to say. Okay, so if we channel for quote unquote selfish reasons, purely selfish reasons, then we may not get the best information as a channeler. Now, here's the thing: the universe doesn't care. The universe is going to give you what you want, what you're intending, what you're vibing. But more often than not, we don't even know what our intention is for channeling. You can channel as a professional, you can channel as just your hobby. Again, you're channeling all the time, but speaking specifically with regards to channeling entities or consciousnesses, always do yourself a favor before you begin to channel. Ask yourself this question: what is my reason for channeling? Why do I want to channel? Why do I want to? Because channeling is nothing more, nothing less than us getting information. Channeling is receiving information. That's what channeling is. Okay. So if we don't know why we want to channel, what we're saying is, hey, universe, I want information, but I don't know what information I want. And the universe is only going to give you what you are vibrating at or what you are capable of handling. Which, again, it's not good or bad. It just simply means you don't have clarity on what information you need. Okay? So the first question you want to ask yourself is, why do I channel? Why do I want to channel? If you want to channel to make more money, I will be the first one to tell you that that is not a great way to make money. Okay? Why? Well, because it's still fairly not norm, and channelers are taught to be fakes. Okay, everybody has their ideas and beliefs. That's totally fine. But if you are wanting to channel to make more money, there are better ways of making money than channeling. Okay. Number one. Number two, you're coming from a space of scarcity. Okay? That does not mean that you cannot make a living as a channeler, of course. But if that's your predominant goal, then you are putting a lot of quote unquote physicality and heavy energy on the idea of channeling. In other words, you might end up channeling things you don't want. Okay. Now, is that, again, good or bad? No, it's just simply an experience. So what you want to do before you start any form of channeling is you want to ask yourself, what is it that experience that I'm seeking? What is it that I want? Okay. And based on that, you are communicating to the universe, hey, universe, this is the information I need. Give it to me. And then the best corresponding frequencies will align with you in order to share that information with you. Okay. On the other hand, if you don't know why you're channeling, you're just saying, hey, universe, give me anything. And anything might show up. Okay. The other thing is, when we live in fear, that obviously lowers our vibration. So here's what I got. Being afraid of your own shadow aspect is often a determining factor in how or who you connect with in terms of channeling energy. It is possible to channel your own energy without knowing it is yours. This was interesting. Basically, what they were saying here is that part one, if we are not taking care of our shadows, which are often fear-based, and our shadows affect our energy, then our ability to channel higher consciousness and higher frequency will be in some way, shape, or form affected by the fear that we are holding on to. Okay. So again, one of the best ways to ensure that we are all clear channelers and channeling only the highest frequency possible. I mean, you can channel lower frequency, of course, that's your choice, but that's not my form of entertainment. I'm not interested in channeling lower vibrations. I'm only interested in channeling the highest vibrations, but you can channel whatever you want. Point being is that if you are not taking care of our shadows, of our fears, then that's going to determine often what energies we bring to us in form of channeling. Okay. For example, someone who lives in a victim mentality is going to often attract an energy that will make you feel like a victim. It will be the type of information that you will be receiving will be very much based in your victim mentality. Okay. So how do you move past that? You have to heal your victimhood, as an example. Okay. Also, when we are vibrating in a victimhood mentality, what we are saying is that we are not in control. And if that's what we are saying with our energy, we're basically saying to the universe, hey, universe, match me with an energy that's going to make me feel like I'm not in control. Or somehow it's going to keep proving to me that I am not in control. So obviously that's not what we want, because I believe we want to feel like we are more in control, not less in control. In fact, we don't want to be controlled at all. We want to have our own control at our own disposal. Okay? So controlling what you channel or how you channel is directly linked to your shadow aspects. So you can have a very high quality channeling by clearing your shadows. Now, am I saying that the only way for you to channel high frequency is that you have no fear? No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, what it means is that you don't live predominantly in fear. And when we have a lot of shadows, when we have a lot of fears we haven't dealt with, then without even knowing, we are vibrating at that level. Okay? So don't be scared of channeling. This is not what it's about. It's not about you being scared. It's actually giving you information that hopefully will be helpful if you are wanting to channel. The other thing they said that affects channeling is lack of self-respect. If you put other beings on a pedestal, you are communicating with your energy that you are less in control than the being you are channeling. So this is what we talked about a moment ago. If you want to pursue channeling is best that you come from the space of knowing and embodying the fact that you are the same as the being that you are channeling. The only difference is that energy or that being has more access or has greater access to all information and you don't. That's all it means. It doesn't make you less than, doesn't make you better, it makes you the same. You just have a little bit less access to this information, that's all. And these beings will these beings will very kindly share a lot of information with you. Okay, but you have to not put them on a pedestal, because it skews the relationship. Okay, you don't want this, you want this. On the other hand, again, if you do put others on pedestal, then what you are saying is that you are minimizing yourself, and that's going to lower your frequency. And again, the lower your frequency is internally, the less likely you are to attract a lower vibrating frequency. And there's a gazillion of different frequencies and beings. I mean, you can channel pretty much anything you want, presuming that you actually believe that you can channel anything you want. People channel trees, people channel animals. I have in the past. People channel countries. Everything is energy, right? So if you want to pursue channeling, whether it's in a form of hobby, or you make it to be something more like I have, make sure that you are always coming from a very clear space in your mind. And again, the question you want to pose for yourself is, why do I want to channel? If you want to channel to feel better about yourself, it may not work. Okay? Instead, start feeling better about yourself and then notice how channeling goes. Okay? And do not try to channel to prove to others that you are correct, or somehow to prove something to others, because then you have an agenda. And it's a funny thing with an agenda and channeling. If I, as Joanna, have an agenda, then I'm basically not leaving room for a whole bunch of other information that is not on my agenda, that could be way better than what's on my agenda. In other words, if I try to control what I channel, then I'm not open to what the universe has to give me in terms of information. And the universe knows what I need more than I do. So what I'm saying in a roundabout way is that in order to channel, we have to be fairly open. We have to let go of trying to control the process, and that's very difficult. I, as Joanna, know this very well. It's difficult to not control the process, because you are basically saying, I trust whatever is out there to not harm me. Because when you channel, you have to make yourself open, right? So you have to have a lot of trust in spirit, trust in who and what you're channeling, but most importantly, trust in yourself. And always coming back to the same place, reminding yourself, I am not worse, they're not better, we are the same. Okay? Also, making channeling as a normal practice of every day. In other words, making the idea of channeling something that you practice every day, and just reminding yourself that I practice channeling every day, is going to make you feel more comfortable with the whole idea of being a channeler. Because some people want to channel, but they may not feel good about the being called a channeler. Why? Because there's a lot of negativity still tied to being a channeler. That's okay. They used to be burnt at the stake, I believe, long time ago. Although if you tell somebody these days that you channel trees, which people do, most people in this 3D world will look at you and they'll say, you're crazy. Or they're not even going to say a thing. They're just going to go, okay, they're channeling trees. All right. Okay. Nonetheless, trees can be channeled, and trees are being channeled by people all the time. Okay. Everything speaks. Everything vibrates. We have the ability to pick up all those vibrations. You may not have been taught that you can communicate with whales. So it's not in your box of possibilities at this time. But the reality is that beyond the box, you can communicate with whales. And my Joanna brain goes, how? by tuning into the whale you want to communicate with. I just heard, yes, imagine connecting with a whale in your meditation practice, and ask that the whale give you information, or ask if a whale has any information for you. I've never tried that, to be honest with you, so it feels peculiar to me, but I'm going to try it. But another part of me goes, well, of course we are connected to everything all the time. Why wouldn't I be able to channel a whale? It's all frequency. Now, it won't be the type of channeling where I will be speaking to it in English. It'll be a mind-to-mind communication. And since everything is mind, whale is the mind, you are the mind. Mind is essentially information and vibration. Just by being vibration ourselves, and the whale being a vibration, we can communicate. We just don't know how. Well, they gave us an example. So if you try it and it works for you, let me know how it goes, because that's, like I said, I haven't tried it before. It's never been, they've never suggested it before. Okay, other things about channeling. Limiting beliefs about channeling, which is nothing more, nothing less than information gathering. So with limiting beliefs about channeling, which is nothing more than information gathering, will tend to put you in a limited space in terms of what you channel and why. So this goes back to the point I was talking about earlier, that if we're holding on to anything, limiting beliefs that are fear-based about channeling, it's going to skew our ability to perceive clearly. Because as we know, anxiety and fear lowers our vibration. They said all forms of channeling are essentially connecting with and expressing frequency. Your own frequency will determine how you connect with energy and what information you bring forth. Be responsible for your own energy first. What this is saying is that because we're all channelers, we just don't think of it that way. What this is saying is that it's really important that we take care of our limiting beliefs when it comes to channeling, and also limiting beliefs we have about ourselves, being able to channel, and make sure that our physicality, our mental body and physical body, and our emotional body is in a balanced state as best as possible, because that's going to ensure the best possible outcome. Okay? They said you channel all the time. You channel all the time. It's in your very nature to be a channeler of energy. And as such, we are all equipped to do so. So I don't know if any of this is making sense. I don't know if any of this is helpful to you. But the reason really why I wanted to do this video was to basically say this. We are all channelers. It's essentially receiving information and then expressing information. We do it all the time. For example, you know the saying, chaos follows chaos, or drama attracts drama. Okay. If we are vibrating at a certain frequency, we will have access likely to a similar frequency, doesn't matter what we channel. Okay. So it's important for us to raise our own frequency, which is to work on ourselves, to work on our shadows. It does not mean that you cannot channel until the work is done, because there's no such thing. The work is never done. But the less shadows we are trying to hide from, the more freedom we feel on the inside, the more free we will feel to attract very, very, very high vibration. So it's important that we understand that our ability to channel is already there. We are fully equipped to channel. The what and who we channel will depend on how we vibrate within ourselves. So healing always comes first. Okay. Number 2. Intention is extremely important. Knowing what your intention is to channel. If your intention is stemming from a space of lack, like this particular gentleman, his channel wasn't doing well, so he thought he should do channeling. His intention was based on his lack reality. And he has attracted to himself certain beings that call themselves a certain name and that are asking him to worship him. You don't want to do that. Okay? So your own energetic cleanliness and your awareness of your intention is very, very important in terms of who we channel and what we channel. So know your intentions for channeling. If you want to just channel for your own self-interest, that's perfectly fine. Ask yourself, what would you like to learn through channeling? What information would you like to gain from channeling? And then at some point you can share it. So you don't have to channel to share with others. You can channel for yourself. In fact, that's often the preferred way, because then you don't have the additional burden of trying to prove channeling to somebody else, because you can't. Something cannot be proved. It has to be something that's experienced. Okay? So if you just want to practice channeling for yourself, by all means. But always keep in mind that what you want to do is you want to align yourself with only the highest frequencies. At least that's what I would do. Okay? Because only the highest frequencies are, well, closest to source and have the most level of information, the highest level of information. Why would you want to channel less information when you can channel a lot more information? Doesn't make sense. Of course, you always want more expansion than less expansion. Also, letting go of the analyzing mind. The mind has difficulty oftentimes trying to perceive channeling as something real. So it begins to believe that it's making it up. And remember what I said earlier, that they said sometimes you can channel your own energy not knowing that you are channeling your own energy. This is where shadow work comes in. If you have a lot of unresolved issues, unresolved trauma, unresolved fears, you may be channeling your own fears. You may be perceiving your own inner environment, thinking that you are channeling some other entity, and you may not be. You might be just channeling you. That's why it's really important to know yourself. Now, I know there's more discussion to be had on this piece, I can tell, but it feels like that will be on a different session. Nurturing your body. Why is it important to nurture your body? Healthy body, healthy mind. Healthy mind, healthy body. And the health of your organism as a human being, as a body, will also determine how much energy you can hold, because energy is frequency. If your physical body is not in a calm state, for example, and it's very frazzled, channeling frequency can make you feel even more frazzled. So your nervous system has to be in place, or it is in place, but it has to be calmed down. When the nervous system is on high, then we are basically vibrating on fear. You don't want to be in that vibration when you are channeling, because like attracts like. Okay? So making sure that we are taking care of our bodies, our physical bodies, our emotional bodies, our mental bodies, so that we are as much as possible in a calm and peaceful space when we are attempting to channel. Okay? It's always going to give you potentially the best outcome. Okay? Also, you do not want to use channeling to get out of this dimension, to bypass being in 3D world. That's dangerous as well. Why? Because it means that if you're trying to escape this 3D world, then there is something that you haven't healed yet. If you're trying to get away, then there's something you haven't healed yet. Okay? Channeling will never help you escape. If anything, it'll make things worse, because you will be too engrossed in higher frequencies, and you will not be taking care of your physical body, and then your energy is going to become very unbalanced. You will eventually, at some point, start to tip over too much to the other side of non-physicality, and it may feel like you're losing your mind because you're not balanced. At the end of the day, you're still a human. You're going to remain as a human as long as you remain a human in this physical body. So it's really important to take care of our physical bodies when we are attempting to channel. Okay? Think of your body as a vehicle. You want your vehicle to be in the best shape possible in order so that you can channel the highest frequency possible. And channeling high frequency is very healing to the body. It also doesn't mean that you have to have a perfect health and have nothing quote unquote wrong with you to channel. No, I'm not saying that. But be as healthy as you can, be as committed as you can be to taking care of your body, your physical body, so that you can be a better channeler. Okay? If you've got some things going on and you are not feeling well, by all means, use energy, use channeling to help you heal. But make a commitment to yourself that it's about helping you heal, not helping you bypass the healing. And I've seen few people in my life, in a semi-close circle, where these particular individuals' mental state was not in a balanced state, and they're tipping to this other level of awareness that looks like they're losing it, okay? Because they haven't dealt with their shadows. So they're trying to escape this world, and it becomes very unbalanced. You don't want that either. Okay? At the end of the day, you're still a human being. Okay? So to be a channeler is to be a human being. To be a channeler is to be a human being. Your channeling comes through your human beingness, through your beingness. So you have to take care of your physical body, which also means emotional and mental body. Okay? Also, being at peace with your particular form of channeling. Not everybody channels the same way. I am a conscious channeler, though I have done trance channeling before on several occasions, and it was most of it was it just kind of happened. And it's an interesting way to channel because you have to completely let go of control. And I'm not so keen on that. But I can trance channel here and there, but not very often. I prefer to be a conscious channel, which means the energy steps in very close, and it's like they're giving me the words, and the words are just coming out of my mouth, but I'm conscious. Okay? I'm conscious. The energy doesn't step in and take over my body, though it has happened before. I had Toph channel through me, which was completely out of the blue, and because his energy is so potent, and mentally and emotionally speaking, I wasn't where I am right now, and it took me 3 or 4 days to get back to my normal because my entire system was fried. It was just too much, and it was quick, probably like 5 minutes, but it was too much. So what I'm saying here is to hold very high frequency. As a channeler, you have to make sure that your body is intact, that you're taking care of your body. But going back to what I was saying earlier, not everybody is the same type of a channel. The famous channeler, what's his name? The name escapes me. Sleeping Prophet. He was an unconscious channel. I don't see many of these types of channelers these days. I don't feel it's necessary. I feel that we are so much closer to the veil, to the other side, that we don't need to be knocked unconscious. But You can be a conscious channeler, you can be an unconscious channeler, like the sleeping prophet. You can be a medium. People channel in different ways. Some people change their voices, or their voices change. I don't think my voice changes very much. I do feel a different demeanor that comes on, and there's a certain oomph, and the level of it's just more. I speak slightly different words. My words are they come out slightly differently. They have a different quality to them, and I elongate certain words. So I know when I'm channeling, because it slightly shifts how I come across to me. You may not notice it. And sometimes the words are just coming, or I am interpreting what I'm seeing. So there's various forms of channeling. We're all equipped to channel, but we all channel in unique ways. If you're trying to become like somebody else in terms of a channel, then you're not respecting your own way, and that means you're in resistance to it. You don't want to be in resistance when you're channeling, trust me, because then it makes it very hard. Okay? Trusting yourself that what you channel is what is meaning to come through right now. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that what you are channeling is a fact. So even though you might be channeling and getting all this information, it is often also very important to use your discernment. Always use your discernment. You always have the final say. You're the boss. It's your vehicle. Okay? So if some being tells you that you need to worship them, you say, no, thank you very much. Not interested. Okay? So obviously you'd use discernment. Would you worship them? I would say, please don't. Bad idea. So, because I remember one time I went to a lady for a reading. She wasn't a channeler, she was a medium. But that's a form of channeling, right? Receiving information. We just relay information. And I remember this lady told me something about my personal life, and it was a negative, and I didn't ask her for it. I believe she told me that my partner and I were going to split up, and it completely caught me off guard. And I was just heartbroken. And then the next sentence she says, oh, don't worry about it, just go on holidays. Excuse me? You just told me my partner and I were going to split up, but say, oh, don't worry about it, just go on holidays. That's not being a responsible channeler. Read your audience. Okay? If someone comes to you and asks for something, be honest, but use your discernment. Sometimes you may be getting information that you are not, quote unquote, supposed to pass on to the client for whatever reason, perhaps to learn discernment. So discernment is very, very important. Never lose track of the idea of discernment. It doesn't mean you're controlling, but you are discerning. Sometimes you will receive an information that may not be appropriate for the person you're talking to at that particular moment. Okay? So responsibility is a huge piece. I hold myself to the highest degree of expectations that only the highest information is going to come through. But I'm still in the know what is coming through, and at any moment I can say, I'm not channeling this because I feel uncomfortable. Has that ever happened? A few times when I was getting information on like what I would consider would be like conspiracy theories, and because I don't feel comfortable with that subject, I'm like, I don't even want to discuss it. I have a final say. Someone who's into conspiracy theories could have maybe, said, yes, give me more. It wasn't me channeling more conspiracy theories. It was about the idea of conspiracy theory. But I didn't feel comfortable with the subject. So the point I'm trying to make is, I used my discernment and I said, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. So they said, okay, let it go. Just because you can channel doesn't mean you want to channel everything that you can channel. Okay? I could choose to channel on dark entities. I could say to the universe, hey, I want to learn about dark entities. Chances are this is what I would be channeling, but I have no interest. Or I want to channel on how to build something. That's not my interest, but I'm sure I could channel that information if I wanted to, within limit. Okay. Also, about the other thing about channeling, oftentimes you will connect with an energy that will give you information based on your experience. So if you are, for example, a scientist and you have a very good scientific background, you may be connecting with a channel that will give you, or an entity that will give you a lot of information that will have to be interpreted through in scientific terms. I wouldn't be able to do that because I don't have that background, but someone might. Okay. I, on the other hand, get a lot of information on how the mind works, on psychology, because that's my fascination and that is my background. So they will naturally give me more information based on that subject because I have the words to be able to communicate it with you. And I also understand it, and it's a confirmation for me. I don't know if I would feel very comfortable channeling information that I know nothing about. Okay, does that mean I'm not open to other things? Not at all. But my aim is to bring information again to help humanity embody their greatness. And for that, there will be certain energies or certain beings that will give me the equivalent information. Okay, so I'm likely not going to attract entities that will teach me about how trees grow, because that's not my interest. Does that make sense? However, don't be afraid to ask for a high vibrating channel. In fact, you should do that all the time. If you ask for an angel, for example, Archangel Michael, and you don't feel or hear it, doesn't mean that the archangel isn't there, but it may be that this particular being is communicating to you in other ways, through songs, through books, through writing. Okay. Doesn't mean doesn't mean it has to come through particular channeling. Okay, they're asking me to talk a little bit about channeling in terms of hearing, knowing. So my channeling, I hear a lot, and I'm very visual. I see a lot. But lately, in the last 2 years or so, I've been experiencing a lot more just knowing. And it's really interesting because as I was preparing to record this, they were walking me through the different ways of perceiving, and I realized that really knowing is really what I want. I want the knowing. When something comes and it's just the knowing, it's embodied, I have like zero questions. Whereas sometimes when I'm seeing or hearing, I may not be sure what I'm hearing or what I'm saying, because everything is about interpretation, unless of course they just speak through me. So all I'm saying is this: you can be the type of channeler that doesn't have to speak out, but you just have this knowing. Okay, you just have this knowing. Some of you may not have the hearing, although when I say hearing, I always want to make sure that I say it's mostly hearing in the mind. It's not audible hearing, although that's possible. It's not as frequent. Okay, some of you may not hear, some of you may see, some of you may taste. Generally speaking, you will be more versed in one or two ways, and in other areas you'll be weaker. Let's use that analogy. So I used to predominantly hear and see. Now I'm getting more into this knowing. Okay, and so you can perceive various ways. Just because you're not perceiving by hearing doesn't mean you're not perceiving. You are absolutely perceiving, just in your own unique way. And what I've noticed, and I've seen this with other people, is that when we get really good at the stronger clair, then we tend to move on to other ways of expressing or other ways of perceiving. Some of you may taste, did I say that? Some of you may smell. Okay, it's all a form of channeling. Is there anything that I forgot? Also, being in gratitude as a last point is very important, because being in gratitude keeps your heart open. And the more your heart is open, the more you are vibing the frequency of love, which will align you more with a higher frequency of love. Okay? So I hope this made sense. The pick a card video will come at some point. I didn't feel it was appropriate to mix it together, but I felt very strongly to do this video that was suggested to me. So let me know if you would like more information. Let me know if this was helpful. Let me know your own stories or ideas about channeling and your own experiences. I'd love to know what your experience is like with channeling. And if there's anything that you would like to know more about, just drop a line or comment so that I can gather the information and get more channeled information in whatever it is you're looking for. Thank you so much for being here. By the way, the 2024 zodiac signs are still on promo until Saturday. There's a link down below. And have yourself a fabulous day, weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye-bye.